This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so are you able to grasp the things that we were discussing yesterday on the find command, or are you finding it still difficult to understand the examples? Hello,
Uh,
hello.
Hello, Nirmal. I didn't get that placeholder. What is the use of the placeholder in the find command?
Okay, fine. So anything else apart from the placeholder, or is the group all good to go with the next one?
Only that placeholder for me. That is the
Okay.
confusion.
What about the rest of the people who joined class today online as well as in the class? Okay. So let me quickly help you out with what that placeholder is, or I'll break down this command as this is the syntax. Okay, this is the syntax, and then this is simpler to understand. This is the command that we are using, find command, and next thing that we need to provide is the path. Are we looking in the current directory or at a different location? So it could be either dot, which means the current working directory, or else it could be something like a home directory, something you can see here, /home/ubuntu, or whatsoever directory you are in. You can as well pass this to tell that I want to search right from the root directory. Okay, just like how this is shown here. Okay, and the next thing that you need to tell this command is what kind of pattern are you trying to search. It means like something you are trying to search for a word called ABC, so that pattern means ABC. So that you will provide using an argument called -name. So your command should say find dot minus name ABC. Okay, and it will tell you what and all are the files, okay, that has this word called ABC. Next, this is part one. Part two is I have got some list of files and its paths. Okay, fine. So what am I trying to do next is I need to execute some command over it to achieve some task. Okay, so that is achieved using a exec argument. Okay, so that execution could be ls, it could be rm minus rf, or anything as such. Okay, so the command next to the exec is the actual value that you need to pass. It is the, again, it turns out to be a Linux command, something like rm, or it could be ls minus lrt, or anything as such. And then this placeholder is nothing but all the data that is returned, or the list of file paths that is returned by the part one of the command until here, until the highlighted portion, goes as input to this flower bracket. If you have just one path returned, it will only take that as into consideration. If you have some 3 or 4 paths resulting as an output, you will see in this execution of command happens in serial order for each of the paths that are returned as an output. Okay, and then we need to explicitly give a semicolon for this find command. But for a command until now we haven't given anything called as semicolon to say the end of the command. Like ls minus lrt is what we have given till date. We haven't given anything called ls minus lrt and again a semicolon. Similarly, rm minus rf or rm mkdir, we haven't seen anything called semicolon being provided at the end of the command. But this find being little different, we need to provide a semicolon. And to escape the meta character, and this being a meta character, we have to use a backslash character. This backslash is coming because of the semicolon. Okay, understood?
Yes, Nirmal.
Okay, and understand that this semicolon is also required because we are giving two commands in conjunction as a one single command here, as a total one single find command. If you see my first example, I haven't given any semicolon. It is just like ls minus lrt. But the moment I use something called to execute something over the result set is something but this one. Whatever the file path that is returned in my part one of the command, that is the time I need to use a semicolon. And semicolon being a meta character, I have to also preempt with a backslash just to negate the meaning or escape the actual meaning of semicolon.
Okay.
Can someone go on mute who is playing that song? Okay, thanks. Okay. Is that understood to all?
Yeah, Nirmal. It's
Okay.
clear.
So I'll go through quickly few examples, not all, just like a dry run. So this first command will help you identify all the paths which are empty. So I'm looking for in a directory called Vesva. If it is empty, then result out something, else not, don't result out anything. Similarly, I'm looking for a name of a file which has sample.txt in this second example. Okay. Similarly, star.txt could be any text file with any name. It can be sample, it can be 1.txt, it can be 10.txt or whatsoever. Okay. But if you consider this, I'm trying to search for all the files that are with file extension txt, and also I'm doing part two. What is that part two? Execute rm minus rf or whatever. This is not I or interactive maybe. You can do rf on the result set that is coming as an outcome of this particular command, that will be in serial order execution, and this semicolon is because of this exec. Okay, and here just like how I had a Linux command rm minus rf, it could be anything that we have spoken of till date, like any Linux command. So here I'm trying to do grep command. We will discuss about grep, don't worry about it, but it is a Linux command. So all I'm trying to do is execute a Linux command over the result set with a semicolon ending. That is the actual meaning. Is that perfect? Understood? Okay. So what is that I'm trying to do here in line number 192? All that I'm trying to do is I'm not just having one particular path. I'm having four paths here. Slash opt is one path, slash usr is second, slash var, slash home. And the second thing to note is I'm trying to use another argument called type. This type can be either a file or it could be a directory. If it is a file, I will provide F. If it is a directory, it will be D. Alok, yes, it is recorded. I'll share you after the class this video. Okay. So it could be a file or a directory. That is why here you would see F or a D. F is file, D is directory. Okay. Here in my next example, you could see directory, which means search in my home directory, all the names with a name called demo2. I don't have a file extension here just like this .txt because directories don't have any file extension, and it should be of a type directory. Okay. And then anything important here? Here, there is one thing to note here as mtime, which means modified time. A file or a directory, when you try to update any text or anything as such, the time for that particular file gets updated. One is the creation time, we will have another thing called as modified time, last modified time, last accessed time. So things like that will be there as a property of that particular file or a directory. Here I am trying to do something with modified time. Okay, and I'm passing some value called as 7, which means modified in the last 7 days. So that is the explanation for find command. You can run these commands as is. You can Google for examples and then run them. But this is the explanation or how it works out to be, how the find command works. Any questions before we proceed next? Okay, I don't see any questions in the chat as well. I'll just proceed. So the next thing that we will be discussing is something on sort. Sort is actually not a search command, but it is very useful to in our daily life. So what I will be using is, I'm a lazy guy, so I will be using all of your email IDs for this particular sample as a sample data. All that is shared to me. Okay. I think I have kept it in test already. Okay. Okay. I have a file which is of a text type called txt. I named it as sort example.txt. In this, the data is not sorted at all. For example, if you see, it is the first character is A. After that, I have something called P. After that, I have something called S. After that, it again went back to K, A, again S. So in this way, it is not alphabetically sorted, neither it is numerically sorted. So if I have to sort this particular sample data, I have to use a command called sort. Okay, and also remember that once I execute this sort command, the file will not get updated with the sorted data. Okay, it is just that it will show you on the screen on the std out. Okay, so the simple thing is we will use this. Okay, all that I'm trying to do is show me everything on the screen and output this particular output to as an input to my sort command. Okay, I'm not passing any arguments in the base command. I'm just telling to sort this particular data. Okay, so if you notice this execution, it will be now all sorted. See, it started off sorting the data with numericals first. After that, it started off with capitalization. After that, you will see something called as small letters. Okay, in this way, now the data is completely sorted. If it is too much of a data, we can reduce it, or else we will reduce the sample text. Okay, okay, sort example. Okay, I'm making sure that I have some numeric data as well as some mix and match of alpha bits as well. Okay, okay, fine. Okay, it's 65 rows, so it should be okay. Not so bad, not so good. Okay, so the next example that we will be seeing in the sort is, suppose I don't want to show it on the screen. Okay, if I have to redirect, then what do I do? Yesterday we have spoken about redirection, right? So that's when I use the sort on the text file itself. Okay, this will help me sort the data and show me on the screen, but I don't want the output to be on the screen. Then what do I do? Anyone in the class online? Hello? Yes, I have to say a greater than symbol, and also I have to tell the file name. So I will say that file name to be as sorted data.txt something. Okay, so it will sort my data and then it will redirect it to this particular file. If I want to see how it is sorted, so head minus 10 sorted data.text. See, it is all sorted. I'm only displaying the first 10 lines of my entire 65 lines. Okay, so that is one redirection example. Okay, else it will pop out everything on my screen itself.
Adam, I have a doubt. So while we redirecting,
Hmm.
whether we can redirect to some other folder also?
Yes, you can. How do you do that? You
No,
have to
using
tell
the
where.
relative, absolute path we can give one.
Guys, can you
Absolute
please
path.
go on mute? Yes. See, suppose that if it is like Ubuntu, as because I am using something called Ubuntu user, it will be in slash home slash Ubuntu slash sorted data.txt, right? But I want to put it under some temp folder. I can do it. Or if I want to put it under some var folder, something of that sort. Of course, that I should not use this folder for some other reason, but I can use temp folder or anything. Or else if it is some other user, then what do I do? Home slash tell one name quickly, ABC, if he is the user, and then put it in his home directory, right? But right now it will turn to be an error because I don't have this particular user as well as the home directory here. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, but the one that we previously used in our example will be in our home directory. That is why this file is available. This is for Ubuntu user, right? With that, we will go to the next command. So if our choice is not to use a redirection operator just like the greater than symbol, we can also use an argument called -o, which means output. Output to this particular file, and this is my source data, which means my sample data, which is unsorted. All the sorted data should go here. So how do I use it? Sort -o. I have used something called sorted data in my example here, right? Here. So it should be something like sort minus O sorted data.text, which is my end target, and my source should be which file I am trying to sort. There is no requirement for redirection. Okay, this is the one that I have to use. Okay, and now next one. So the next example speaks about something called -r, which means reverse order. All that we have sorted is ascending order. If we want to sort it out in descending order, which means like alphabet should come first, later it should do something for numericals. That is the time I will use an argument called sort minus r and then say sort example and then redirect to sorted data. Okay, just understand that I am using something called single right greater than symbol, which means the previously written data is all gone, will be gone. Okay, if my intention is not that, I have to use another greater than symbol to append the data. Okay, so we'll see both of them. Okay, now if I open this particular file, you will get to see this is my previous data, which is used as ascending. First the numericals, after that alphabetical sorting. Okay, and then I will use something called Control F to move forward in my file. But if you see the end of the file, the numericals have come to the bottom, which means after the alphabets, it sorted out the numerical data. Okay, so with this, the previous output, I think it is done. From here, it started off with the next one. Okay, so set a number that will tell me. I had 65 rows, right, previously, something to sort, or else I'll do one thing. To give you some clarity, I will just use overwrite. Okay, and then say head minus 10 sorted data. Okay, it sorts out with alphabets first. Bottom of the file will be now the numericals. Okay, understood? Yes, the greater than symbol is to redirect the data to a file. Correct. Okay, the next example that we will take is -n, which means like it will. Okay, let me modify this sample also. We will say head minus 10 or 20. Okay, here I am trying to use something called as pipe, which means output of this particular command will go as input to head minus 20. Okay, so what we will use is the file name, which is sample text.txt. Okay, now if you see, it shows only the first, or I should use sorted data something. Okay, so you are only able to see the last 20 lines, first 20 lines of this sorted data. Okay, and then this command can also be written in this way. Okay, I'll come to it later. I have some other modification to do. I'll tell you that example later. Okay, and then I can use -u to remove the duplicates. For example, if you see here, I have 3 times the same name. So if I use the same example with u, what happens? It will only print once. See, all these are, especially this name. It was showing me thrice before, now it will show me only once. In this way, even if you people send me email IDs which are like repeated thing, I can sort out my data and then say only have one data instead of repeatedness. Okay, that is one example or use of it. Okay, and then this K4N is if you have some employee data which has some columnar data, which means like I have a name field, I have a employee number, I have department or something of that sort, which is like a database for me. That is the time I will use K4, which means sort according to fourth column. Okay, this is also the same thing, sort according to fourth column only, but the representation is different. I can either use hyphen K4 or else I can use K space fourth number, that way. Okay, so here if you see, this is my sample data, suppose 1 2 3 4. Okay, so this particular row is what I will be sorting. This is already sorted. If you see the highlighted portion is already sorted, so my interest is to only sort this particular row or column, right? So I will be using 1 2 3 and 4. Fourth column I have to sort. That is why I used minus K4 or hyphen K4N. And all this data needs to be there in a file called employee.txt. That is how it is. So this is all about few examples on sort. You can explore by reading some more examples either in Google or else through man pages, and start to frame your own commands. But these are the most regularly used commands in our daily usage. Okay, right. Any questions on the sort?
Adam, what was the significance of hyphen n in sort? I think I missed to get that.
Sorry, this one.
Yes, yes, yeah.
That is numbering, sort according to some. You can try it out, but it's okay. Sort example. Even I forgot. So let me see, man sort, and then I have minus n, right? That is what it does. Numeric sorting first.
Okay.
Okay. In by default it is numeric sorting first, and after that alphabetical. But if I want to use numeric sorting as a special mention, that is the time I will use minus n.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
No one can remember all the options, buddy. Just use the man pages. That's all. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Right. So the next thing is, these are the examples that I will speak during the time while I explain awk. Awk is another command just like the find, grep and all, but we will see. Okay, this has regex expression, so I have to finish regular expressions and then come to it. Okay. Okay, then we'll skip these two examples. I wanted you people to analyze how the output of this goes as input to this grep command, grep to sort, that way, but we'll revisit this later. Okay, so any questions till now on sort, find or anything as such? Nothing? I will verify meanwhile whether this particular file is there or not. Yes, it is there. Right, perfect. Okay, so this text is already there for me, so this is not required at the moment. I need not to have a source file. But next command that we'll be discussing is sed. Sed is just like find, grep, another search command, and the full form for sed is stream editor. Why stream is because the text that we see in a file, it's like in continuous basis, just like how the river stream flows. It is also a stream of characters, right? So that is the reason why these people have named it as stream editor. Okay, and then what are we trying to do using sed? the same thing can be achieved easily by some combination of various commands. Like until now we have spoken about some ls. After the ls command, we can redirect to something else like find. In an After we analyze find, we can give that input as give that output as input to something. But what is that we are trying to solve using sed is complexity. So this redirection operator or the pipe symbol will increase the complexity. It will not reduce your execution time of a command as well. So for that, these people have come up with another command saying that, okay, use this and finish up your work faster, which means execution time, it will be lesser. Okay. So we will see in a moment how this sed works, but understand that again, this command will not impact the file, source file. It will output the data onto your screen, which is nothing but std out, just like how sort was displaying data. But at the same time, if you want to redirect this data, it is possible using the same greater than symbol. Instead of printing on the screen, if you want to redirect the data to a text file or Excel sheet or whatsoever, you can redirect or as well append. Okay. The next thing is we will see how the execution or the usages of sed by few examples. Okay. We'll take this first example and understand what it is. And before I proceed further, sed is again a utility. So it should be installed on the machine which is being used. So after you install any tool like Java or anything as such, software or anything, so we will see something called as version. So you can type the same thing. Sed also has a version. It will tell you which particular license, which version, which copyright version, which licensing stuff it has. Is it free software or is it proprietary software? Written by whom? All these things as you see for any other software. Okay, so all these things are available for any utility. And then we'll come back to the understanding of this example. Okay, so this example says that I have to use a utility called sed and apply that particular thing on a source file called test.txt and do what? Do a string replacement of wherever I find Unix with a word called Linux. Okay, so if you see, as I told you, the output will be displayed on the screen. Why? It is std out. Std out is nothing but my display screen or my shell, right? So if you see my text source data, it will all be with a word called Unix, right? Here also I have Unix. Here also I have Unix. Here again I have Unix. But notice only the first occurrence of each line. Okay, this sed command will only replace, okay, with a word wherever it finds Unix with Linux only in the first occurrence, which means on each line it will search for the first occurrence of a word called Unix and replace it with Linux. That is why you have something called Linux. The second time it sees Unix, it will skip, or directly the algorithm itself will go to the second line and search for a word called Unix. Now, if I want to search for Unix and replace all my occurrences, that is the time I have to use global. Okay, G is for global. Now you see that wherever I have Unix, everywhere it will replace it with Linux, right? It will go each line by line and see, even if it has multiple occurrences on the same line, it will replace it with Linux. Is that understood? Okay, I see no questions. So we'll go to the next one. So the second thing that we popularly use is in GI or IG, both are same. Okay, it is like case insensitive, which means even if I have capital U here, which means capital Unix or something, it will replace it with a word called Linux. Okay, doesn't really matter for it, but it will do globally, which means what? Again, every occurrence that it sees, it will replace. If I don't have G and just have I, it will only do the first occurrence. Okay, here as you see, it is only the first occurrence, but it will check for case insensitive here. But if I want to have both, I have to pass either IG or GI. Okay, that is the thing. Suppose for you people, if I have to modify, I will make it something called vim test.txt. I have made it capital. I will make somewhere else also some capital. Okay, now you will be able to see the difference. Okay, I have both G as well as I, and I'm running that on a source file called test.txt. Okay, so wherever I had Unix also with the capital U, it got replaced with Linux. Okay, that is the usage of G and I, which means global as well as case insensitive. Okay, and next, this is redirection. It is self-explanatory, which means like I am appending the data here. If I have one single arrow, it will only redirect. And here understand the usage is about pipe as well as redirection used in one single line. What does this command, how should I interpret this command? Here is the part one. Part one says cat test.txt, which means what? Display on the screen. Okay, fine. This particular output of this first command, I'm trying to give it as input to this. Okay, input to this particular command, where every occurrence of Unix will get replaced with Linux. And then whenever I try to use sed, as I told you before, it will be on the screen. Output will be displayed on the screen, but my intention is not to display on the screen. I have to redirect it to a file. That is the time I will use some redirection operator, either greater than or double greater than, and then say which file name to redirect to. Here I can modify this thing to be as my absolute path as well. Home something, if that particular user and home directory should exist, and then say whatever the file name it should be. Okay, right now I don't have it, so it will return me an error if I use it. So I'll straight away use this. Okay, and see, this file will have the data now. That is the usage. Understood? Any questions till now? Why is it so silent? Okay, at least one responded. What is the doubt that you have, Nandish? You said no. What is that you didn't understand? Oh, no questions. Okay, fine. Perfect. So we'll go with the next one. See this. This one says previously I didn't mention anything as 2,5 or anything as such. I was straight away using sed command and with yes, and then said Unix replace with Linux. But my intention, suppose, is to replace the same thing, the Unix with Linux, only in the lines 2 to 5. Okay, so that is the time I will mention which line to replace also, right? Or else I will not mention this. I will straight away start with this. Okay, here again I can use GI as well. There is nothing that stops me. Okay, that is just an additional argument. You can use that as well. Okay, and see this. As because I am trying to do something in 2 and 5, 2 to 5, or else my first line Unix will remain the same. Second, third, fourth, fifth. After that, anything that wherever I see Unix will remain the same way. It will not replace it. Okay, this Linux was there since the beginning of time. I didn't change because of this command. Sorry. Any significance of yes in the command? Yes. Yes is the actual thing that will replace the word Unix with Linux. Else, how will this is just a stream editor, just like our Vim or anything as such, right? But how will the command know which word I have to replace it with something else? So that is the use of yes. Okay. Yesterday we were using something like truncate and all, right? So it is something similar. We have to pass yes, only then the actual usage will be seen. Okay. After this, we'll go with something called this, which means it says all that I want to do right now is for some line numbers 5 to 10 only apply. Okay. Don't do anything else for the entire file, just like how globally we have used it here. Don't replace all, but only between the lines 5 to 10. So if I say this, it will only print 5 to 10 if there is available, but I don't have that much of data. So what we will try to do is we will do only some 4 and 2. So how many lines it should be? Only 2 to 3 lines it should display, right? 2, 3, 4. Only 2, 3, 4 lines will be displayed. N is the number. Okay. Here I am not trying to change the data from Unix to Linux, but yesterday we recall this. How did we do from if I have to display the lines 40 to 43 or something we were talking about. If I have some 100 line text file, I was using something called head. After that, I was passing that input to tail. So that much of complexity we were using. So that can simply be achieved using one single command called sed -n. What are the line numbers? If we talk about yesterday's use case, it should be something like something if I want to say 43 to 45, I have to just say 43, 45 paragraph and then say the source content. Source file, right? This should do the job for me. Else what I should do, I should use first cat command and then I have to think through, okay, my file should have only 43 lines first. So I will use head -43 of that file name and I will use a pipe character. After that, I will redirect that output to something else and say, okay, now use the tail command to print only the bottom last 3 lines, right? So my intention is to show 43, 44, 45. So I will be doing tail -3, right? So all that will cut short to one single command called sed and then with -n. Okay, is that understood?
Yeah, whether it's mandatory to mention that P in the command
P
or
is for
even
yes. P says paragraph.
okay.
Okay, which portion of the paragraph to or which part to display. Okay, and now we haven't spoken of grep, but grep has something like you print something as an output. But if I want to implement something like reverse logic, don't display that one except to that data, rest of the data you display. So that is the time I have to use a not operator. People who are coming from computer science background will easily understand this. Not means negate. Okay, previously we haven't kept negation operator here, which means line number 5 to 10 you print or display on the screen. But now what I'm trying to say is, except 5 to 10, rest of the lines you print me and show me. So if I have anything like 1 to 4 and as well as 11 to rest of the file, this command will help me print all of the data. Okay. And then similarly, I use -e. E is for expression. Why I use this expression is to say that I have multiple portions of my file to be displayed on the screen, something like 5 to 7. Okay. After that, I also need 10 to 13. Also, after that, I need some 30 to 40, something of that sort. So that is the time I will use E. E means expression. Expression is again a command kind of a thing to execute. So first time I will execute 5 to 7. I will keep it aside in a buffer, the data. And then I will execute 10 to 13 lines, or I should say line number 10, 11, 12, 13 as well of this source data. Okay. Similarly, if I have to use multiple replacements, suppose that I was using only one here, Unix with Linux. But if my intention is to replace ease with R as well as Unix with Linux, right? How I can achieve without this -e? I have to run the same sed command twice. But with this command, I will be able to achieve it at single shot. How do I use if I don't have a provision like -e? I have to use this on this data and redirect it to the same file. If I don't redirect it to the same file, if I say something like test1.txt, I have to use this text.1.txt as my source for my next command and then say the same thing, because it should be out, it will output on my screen, Unix with Linux. This is the way to go if this was not the option, right? But now as we have, oh sorry, this is not required. Okay, so if just because I have -e as an argument that I can use, I will use both these two commands, or the output can be achieved in just one line. Okay, that's the thing. So okay, D is for delete, P is for print, D is for delete. uh, the command is self-explanatory. I want to delete the 5th line. I want to delete something from 3, 4, 5, 6. That is why I was using comma as well here. -e is for expression. Okay, and then I want to delete a pattern called, okay, let me explain this one because this is little, I will come back to it later. But if I have something called like this, /2, which means like I'm searching for a pattern, match pattern, we'll say in Perl and all. For that, we will be using M, and then say what is the pattern that I want to use, something like Perl. This is the word, it should exactly match. Only then it will do something for me, which I will be mentioning in the rest after it. Okay, but in sed command, I just have to mention the pattern, that's all. So that is why it is said this is the pattern. But what I want to achieve, I have to mention, as I said here in the second portion of the command. What I have to achieve is I'm trying to delete here. Okay, so that is why I was using D. And then, okay, suppose this command we will analyze. Okay. Okay, what I'm trying to do is forget about at the moment that I don't have, or think that I don't have hyphen I dot back. What happens is I will be using this particular expression to execute over this particular file. Even hyphen E is not mandatory. Okay, it is an expression that I have to execute. What I am trying to do, I have something called org. Maybe my meaning was original, and this one is to replace with something. And then if I find an occurrence of org, it will replace with REPL, where in this particular sort data, or in this particular sample text. Okay, but after I execute this one, everything will get populated here on the screen. But if my intention is to redirect to a file, I will be using something called redirect operator. That is also fine. But if my intention is not to create a redirect, but use something of the same file, .bak, without the redirection operator, can I achieve that one? No, right? Or else I have to say something like redirect to test.txt.bak, right? But if I don't want to mention this much of a string, right, as we always want shortcuts, what is the other way to do? I have to use hyphen I.bak. This I will use the same text source path, a source file name, and then say .bak, it will provide the extension. So if I execute this command, it will not display anything on the screen for me, but it will create a file called test.txt.bak. If you see here, it will be there. Okay. Star means everything, and everything that starts off with test.txt. I have even a file which was my sample text, as well as a .bak file created because of this run. Okay. Hyphen E expression. Okay. Any other question? These are the basic few common arguments that we will be using very regularly. So that is the only thing that I'm explaining this as examples, but you can always read the man said and explore more. See, hyphen N is for quite, that we have used. E is for expression or a script execution, and pass on the script. Here in our case, the script was /s something, replace with source versus target kind of. Okay, if I have something called something to do with symlinks, I can use this hyphen follow symlinks. Or else if I have some line with length something 10 lines or something, I can use hyphen L option. So there are so many things that you can explore which we haven't discussed. Okay. That's all. So something like null data, null characters, which means like null and void, we say, right? It is not zero. It is like just blank lines. I just want to separate those lines. That is the time I will use hyphen Z maybe. Need to try it out. Okay. Hyphen version is what we tried out. And if you still need any help, you can use hyphen help. There might be some examples also on the bottom. That's about it. So these people next started to speak about regular expressions, which I will be speaking next. Okay. So is the sed understood to all? How do I use sed command? The importance of sed is more important than the usage, because usage will anytime after you join some organization or for anything as such, Google will be of help or man pages will be of help. But you should actually understand the intent behind coming with this command called sed. We can achieve the same thing using a combination of multiple commands, but our thing is to get things done faster and with a simplified one single small command. So that is why sed came into picture. Okay. Any questions? I'll give 1 minute of time for any of your questions you can think through. Okay. I is to say in place. Okay. Why in place? We have been using the same file name, and as a continuation, I am putting something called BAK. You can replace it with BKP also, or backup in full. BACKUP also you can keep. That is no problem. Okay, whatever that you wanted to keep, but it should be an extension of the source file.
But if we are not giving that, it will replace the original file itself, right? So after I attribute, if you're not mentioning, yeah,
Hmm.
it will replace the original file itself. It will, yeah.
Yeah, but then why do I have to use I at all? I can skip this at all completely, and then say without E also. I can simply use this particular same expression if my intention is not to create a backup.
But it will display on the screen, right? It won't
Yes,
reflect in the file. Yeah.
this will display on the screen, else redirect operator.
Redirect. Yeah.
Even if my intention is not to redirect to some other file or to the same file, right? That is the time only I will be using -i,
Okay.
right? Correct? Else I will not be looking into -i at all. So we are done. Good to go with the next one. Okay. So the next find or search command that we will be exploring is grep. Grep means global regular expression. Okay. Here we will be using something called as patterns. Okay. Some characters like dollar, cap, caret symbol and all to denote something. Okay. What is that we wanted to denote? If we use a cap symbol or a caret symbol, it means that match the beginning of the line. Okay. If we use a dollar symbol, which means match any string at the end of the line. So something like that, we have some meanings to go with. By default, all the changes are done. Yes, as I said before, everything will be std out. Sed uses std out. It displays everything on screen, as Adam said, right? So that's the same thing. Any questions? Anything that you wanted to ask or anything? Okay, fine. So coming back to grep again. So what is that we will be using is a regular expression, and that regular expression we will be applying it on the source file name. Okay, file name or source file name. Okay, anything is the same. So how a basic grep expression works? Suppose that I have a content called file.txt. We will see what is in file. Okay, suppose that I have this particular text, and if my intention is to figure out where in this entire text do I have something called easy, then I have to say grep and my search pattern here is easy, and then say which is the source file. Source file here is text.txt, and then say enter. Now you see it highlighted for me where and all are the lines, or on which lines do I have a word called easy, right? So this is a very simple usage. But now if I also want, this is just like how many files are there, lines are there? 3, 6, 7 and 8. So this is only 8 lines of text. So it is very simple for me to figure out, even by counting, okay, here is the line that I have one easy, here is another where I find easy. Okay, suppose that if my source file itself is running in 1000 lines or something of such sort, for me to understand on which line do I see this word called easy, how do I figure that out? So that is the time I will use n, which means display also the line number. Okay, so here you see on line number 4 I have a word called easy. Again on line number 8 I have a word called easy. Okay, and next, supposing as we discussed previously, if I don't want to have something called case insensitive, if I want to have capitals also, doesn't matter, display me on the screen. Even if it is with small characters also, display me on the screen. So that is the time I will use I as well. Okay, so here it doesn't make sense if I use a word called easy, but I will use a word called Unix, because we have a capital U as well as a small u. Okay, here you will be able to make out the difference. So you see on line number 1 with capital Unix, on the same line with small letter small u, as well as here I have a small u, and in multiple lines like this. Okay, 1, 3, 4, in all of these lines I have a word called Unix. So everything gets displayed on the screen. The redirection operator holds good even here. If only if my intention is to redirect it to a file called txt, e.txt, that is the time I will redirect. Okay, suppose that my intention is to grep for a word called Unix in text.txt, and in this output again if I have to grep something called easy in test something, I can still do so, I believe. Yes. Okay, that way. What is that I'm trying to do? First it will search for a word called Unix in my source file called test.txt. This particular output I am giving as an input to my second command. Okay, that is the time I will use this pipe symbol as was discussed yesterday, right? And then if my intention is to redirect or display, either I will use a greater than symbol to create a new file called e.txt, else I will append. Append means something like this, double greater than symbol. Okay, now if you see, my lines will be 4. Because I executed the same command twice, and in each time I had 2 lines as a result. So my total lines will be 4 now. Okay, and then even I can display like this, pipe to word count -l. Why? Oh, okay, for the text file I can't use this directly. I have to use here itself in the beginning word count. Okay, so that's okay. So any questions on how I use the basic grep command? Append, if I don't want to delete the previously fed data to a text file, like suppose I have some data in a text file saved yesterday. But my intention is to only to append. Don't lose the previously saved information. That is the time I will use append. Else I will create a new file. If my intention is to override, I will use single arrow, single greater than symbol. If my intention is to add, keep on adding, that is the time I will use append. Okay. Any questions before we go a little bit further on the grep command usage? So there is something called recursive as well, along with this. Suppose I can use NRI as well. R is for recursive search. Okay. But everything, as I was telling you before, everything will be std out, which means display on the console. Okay. So this is the very basic grep usage. Now we will use, instead of if a direct word called Unix, easy or something like that, we will start to use or give inputs like a regular expression. Okay, we will deal with regular expressions in depth, but we will be only using one or two expressions just to make sure that we can use not just the word, which means like the search pattern, but we can use even the regular expression as our search patterns. Okay, just to say you that this grep has a flexibility to accept regular expression as well, we will discuss only one or two. Okay, so as I was telling you before, we can use something like with, ends with or something. Okay, which means suppose here cat, what was my file name, test.txt. Okay, here my each line suppose is ending with a full stop. So what I will be using, this is my source file. I said dollar is to say or denote or indicate that my line ends with a dot, right? So I will say wherever the line that ends with a dot, okay, that you grep and show me. See, these are all the lines that I have dot that way. Okay, here as well I can use grep minus n to display the line numbers. Oh, I have dot in every other line, I think 1 to 8, everything is displayed. Okay, that's fine. So next I use a caret symbol in place of a dollar. Okay, this is my search pattern string. Okay, in this I will use a caret symbol and then say a word called learn, which means it should, my line should start with a word called learn. Only then you print that particular line on the screen. So it has second line as well as sixth line with a word called learn as my first word. Okay, so that is the use of cap as well as dollar. Getting it? So this is nothing but a regular expression. Instead, without these, I was directly giving a word called previously as Unix, which is a single word. If I want to use something like two words, I will be using within double quotes. Suppose Unix and Linux. If I have to search for both, I will use like this. If it was single, I will not require quotations, double quotes or else, right? So if I say this, I will have 3 and 7. That is the way to use. Any questions on the basic usage of grep? If you are comfortable with one or two examples, the rest is just like an explanation for the arguments that we are passing. Can anyone respond, please? Is it audible, not audible? Are we on the call?
Understood, Nirmal.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So we'll explore a little more on the grep with some few more parameters or arguments. Okay. So this is the basic thing. If we want to negate, okay. So previously I was telling that search for a word called exit in a file called test.txt. But if my intention is to reverse the search, grep empty lines. Okay. I will take that as well as an example. Okay. Maybe I had it here. Yes, I have it. I'll come to it. Okay. So if my intention is not to search for a word called exit, but the rest of the lines should be displayed on the screen or should be my output, that is the time I will use -v. Okay. So it is something like negate. Okay. I don't think so that if I have a word called exit here, so it will display everything for me. Mm, suppose that I want to use for a word called great. Okay. So previously what it used to do for me, if I have any line which has a word called great, it used to display me that line. Now I'm saying wherever I don't see a word called great, display that particular line. Okay. So it is this. So if you see here, all my lines don't have a word called great. Okay. You can also have -n along with -v, which means -vn or nv, anything is fine. This is only to display the line numbers. I had something called a white space or something, that is why line number 9 was coming. Except that, that is nothing. Okay. Understood the importance of v usage? Okay. Next thing that we will discuss is, suppose I have a source file called text. Okay. But I want to print empty lines. Just take the example of the 9th line, where I didn't have anything for it except some few white spaces maybe. Okay. So how should my regular or search pattern be? My search pattern, if I say without anything inside, will it display anything? No. So how should I define an empty line? Can anyone make a guess? It is something like space bars will be treated as space. It's a space, white space character. So if I have space in between, it is treated as a search pattern. So the thing is, I have to have a logic to be embedded in this double quotes, which says start with something and end with something. But here my something is nothing. So I should say start with nothing. Previously I was using a caret symbol to say or to indicate start with something, but start with what? Start with nothing. So I will leave it blank that way. Similarly, at the end of my string also, it should end with nothing, right? Yes, someone rightly pointed out, Shubham, with a dollar and a caret symbol, but it should be in the reverse order. Or it could be this as well, because I am telling at the end it should be nothing and it should be start also as nothing. So you're right, Shubham, you're correct. Okay, so my ending of my line also should be with nothing. If it was something else, I should say something like dot or something, or what would be my search pattern. But if I have nothing, I should say I don't require anything. It starts with nothing, ends with nothing. So only one line comes here. That is because of line number 9. If I have something like n, No, this is the line. Okay, so everything depends on only the search pattern and the logic. Okay, however you want to use, or however the question is being asked. Okay, so the next thing is, previously you were seeing something called, I will go back to my base example, which says my interest is to search for a word called Unix. Okay, it was showing me some output, but here what is happening, each line wherever I see Unix, okay, I didn't have I, that is why it was not highlighting for capital Unix, it was only highlighting for small Unix. Okay, so the next thing is, wherever the word called Unix is present in my entire text file, it is getting as an output for me on the screen. Okay, fine. Next thing is, if I want to also have one or two lines after the occurrence is noticed on any particular line, that is the time I will use -a, which means after. So after I notice the occurrence on the line, after that I want to display some two lines as well. Okay, that is that -a. Okay, probably we will use something as system. Okay, that looks as a good example for me. If I have system, you will be able to notice the difference. Okay, now my search pattern is system, my source file is test.txt, and wherever I find system, display that. Along with that, the next two lines also you display. Okay, so if I enter this, see, the first occurrence is system in line number 2, but after that, previously how I used to show was, it used to directly go and look for line number 6, but here I gave an additional parameter saying after the occurrence of the word, or after I notice the occurrence of the word called system, also print the next two lines. That is why it was printing 3 and 4. Similarly, after 6 it was printing 7 and 8. So now the same way, if my intention is to print something prior, before the occurrence, I should say before, which is B. Okay, I don't have a 0th line prior to my line number 2, that is why it was showing only 1. Okay, but for line number 6 I have two lines prior, which is 5 and 4, that is why it was showing these two lines as well. And now if my intention, A is for after, B is for before. Okay, similarly, if I want to use for both before and after, okay, I should use a argument or a parameter which says -C. Okay, so it displays both before as well as after. So the first occurrence is in line number 2. After that, I want to print before and after both. So as a combination, before and the next two lines as well. Here also, if you see, it is line number 6, two lines before, which is line number 4 and 5, which again coincides with the first two lines of the output, but it's fine. And again display the next two lines after the occurrence of the word called system. Okay, date pattern and all depends on how we are using a -October 2019, which means I have to explain something for numerics as well as alphabetical. So it will be something like words. So I should say search for a word, search for a numeric, which is n. So there are complications like that. So, but I don't want to get into those now, which I'll come to it later. Or else you can use square brackets. and then say this is like hard to use. I have to start my string with caps and a word. So I will say plus W, sorry, plus W like that. And then have a character called hyphen. After that, it should be a numerical. So this like goes very complicated. Okay. So my intention is to say you people that I can use regular expression in my grep command. I will come to the complications later where I completely deal regular expression as my topic. That time I will discuss about date, emails, how to search for email addresses, all of those later. Sorry, email, it is treating it as a command. Okay, so I'll come to those complicated cases later. Okay, fine. So, but my intention here is to only explain you or tell you folks that I can use regular expressions, not just the word alone. Okay, that's pretty much I think I have for. Okay, one good example I can take is the getEnt or /etc/password. If you see this, the output of /etc/password, there is so much here, right? But my intention is to search for a word called root. That time I will say pipe and then say grep root. Wherever the occurrence of root, you show me that particular line only. But if my intention is to also print the line number, grep minus n. Okay, so this is line number 1. I have found root, that is the line output, right? The same way getEnt also. GetEnt is another command. For that I need to pass password, which is like the list of users, and then say grep. Output would be the same. Okay, meaning that I can use grep over any Linux command. Okay, need not be grep search pattern and a file name. It can be used over a Linux command as well. Okay, so if you see here, there are lots and lots of examples that I have explained. So this is the square bracket I was telling you about. It speaks about all the words that has the combination of all the characters that start with small a to small z. This hyphen is for range. If I don't want to use a to z, I can as well simply use word plus. Plus is for any 0 or more, that way. Okay, but I don't want to tell you folks about all this right now. Okay, simple as that as well here. Pipe means R. Either it can be with small letters or else it can be with capital letters as well. Okay, but okay, this is all fine. So I'll come to revisit these examples again later whenever like we have some comfortness using grep basic commands, and then one or two regular expressions which use a caret symbol and a dollar symbol, something of that sort. If you are able to start to use those, I will explain about all those. Okay, a range operator with hyphen, with dot dot, all those I will come later. Okay, so with that, so these are the basic usages of grep command. Anyone has any questions? Nope. Okay, so we will continue a little, which speaks about something called as extended grep, which means we have seen grep as a basic one word search or something like that, right? Or my search pattern should be a string, but it should be one string. But if my intention is to have either one word or another word, something like this, it could be word 1 or else it should be word 2, right? Here in my example, if you see cat test.txt, I will say it could be either Unix or else it is Unix, anything of that sort. How do I use grep? Grep will not be useful for me at that time. So I have to use something advanced, which is provided by egrep. Egrep means extended grep, extended version or advanced version of the base command called grep. Okay, so how the way that I use is same. I can use the same arguments -n, r, I, all those of those sort, but my main usage comes at this point where my search pattern says multiple words like or Unix or Linux. Okay, and my source file should be something test.txt, whatever. Okay, so it will highlight all the places where I have Unix, and Linux, all three. Okay, if you see here, Unix, Linux, as well as Unix, right? See, I can pass NRI as well, which means case insensitive and the numeric, but this is not the main intention. The main intention is in the search pattern, right? Understood egrep, when to use, when not to use, or how is it different from the base command called grep? Okay, so Nandish, when you say nope or no or something like that, tell I don't have questions, or do you have doubts there? I always get to a problem to understand your words, single words. Okay, I believe that you don't have questions there. So with that, uh, the same thing here. If you have something called this paragraph, right? So if I want to use something like @ or \, all of that can be passed as a search pattern here. Okay, either in word1 or in word2. Okay, and then use extended grep. This is just a paragraph of sample that I have, but you can use any paragraph. That is why I took this test sample itself. Okay, and explore more. This is the basic usage of egrep. And the next thing that we can discuss is fgrep, which speaks about something called uh, file grep is what I think. Adam, can you help me with the full form of fgrep? Full form, even I'm lost. Okay, but the usage says that if I have anything like, suppose this example, if I take, I have a fixed length string. Okay, instead of my regular expression saying start off with some word, end with something, or anything of that sort, if I have something called using with some meta character like dot, star, or anything as such, that is the time. Let me check first of all to show you example. Do I have a file called paragraph? No, I don't have it. So let me create that file to show you that example. Okay, so fgrep, and then say whatever is my search pattern, and then say my file name. Okay, in this, if I want to use something like learning or something, it will say yes, I have a search pattern like this. But if I also want to pass on some meta characters like this, it should not treat like new line character. /n means new line character, right? So if my intention is not that, Even I can use it with fgrep and say fixed characters, correct? So I should say I and then G, okay? So it will highlight that kind of wordings for me. It will not treat that as a meta character, and it has a fixed length, right? So this example says about the fixed word, right? That way. And if my intention is to highlight the word wherever the occurrence it is, right? So that is the time I will use -h as an argument or parameter, right? So that is pretty much the usage, and I can still use the base arguments, okay? Minus n, all of that will still work. Line number, displayer and all, okay? Oh, I already have it n as an this thing, right? So this one is about case insensitive. This is line number. This is not negate, okay? As we were discussing before. So anything that if you want to see, right, it will not print any line which has @re. It will print anything apart from @re, okay? So fgrep minus v ni, okay, that way. Okay, minus x6 is for complete match the complete line. Suppose that I have a line like this, but previously grep was used to find @re anywhere in my line. But if my line has only @re, that is the time it will print, else it will not print. So if you see this one, it will not print me anything, because along with @re, I also have few more words on the same line. Suppose that if I have this and I break the line, and I have @re as one in one single line, and then start to use fgrep. Now remember the exclamatory mark usage. I don't have to type the entire command. I just have to say exclamatory mark and fgrep as the first word, and then see what happened. Oh, fgrep. Okay, so that is the use of this. It will display me output as @re. If my intention is to print line number, it will be easy for you. On line number 2 of my text file called paragraph, line number 2, I had this, right? So that is the usage of grep, fgrep and egrep. Okay, more than the examples, I urge you people to understand why fgrep came into picture, or egrep, when is the right time to use these commands. That is more appropriate to learn. Can you please use grep command instead of fgrep? No, can I come to your question? Can you please use grep command instead of fgrep? Yeah, I can use grep @re, whatever it is, and then say paragraph. It will show, but it is not fixed length. As because I had @re as my one word, I was able to get to that, right? But my fgrep speaks about the search pattern as the complete line. It should be made available in my, or it should be seen in my text file or in my source file, which is nothing but paragraph. The key difference between grep and fgrep is that. Okay. So anything else that we have as questions that I can take it up now? Grep starts with RE and ends with dollar. Okay. Adam, you want me to use it as a regular expression, or RE means regular expression, right? So you want me to use that as a word or regex? I don't know if I have a file called file, but I can use it on paragraph, right? Oh, okay. So what Adam is trying to say or explain us is it is equivalent to this command. Fgrep is equal to, yes, if I can copy this, and I think it is made available for all, but I'll make it available for all. So this is what Adam is trying to explain. Fgrep is equal to grep starts with some regular expression and with something in a paragraph, that way, or in a file, in any source file. Okay. So that is about fgrep. We have covered sed. Awk is one thing that I have to still cover, which will maybe cover tomorrow. It will be, it's like, or else it is overflowing for today, right? So we have covered grep, sed, and find as well, sort today with some lot of parameters. So I think we can call it out a day for today. If anyone has any questions, we can, which I can take it up. Adam, you want to speak something? By the way, happy Dasara to you. Hello. Okay, thanks. We'll see tomorrow. Sure. Okay. So we'll continue tomorrow at around 8 o'clock timing, which we can discuss in the group as well. So with this, I'll end the session for the day. Okay. I'm just stopping the recording as well.